Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your girl, P. Coffee Brown, in the building, and we got a powerful show for you tonight. Our full panel is in the house. So, welcome in, everybody. As you're coming in, go ahead, let somebody know you're in the hot seat with your girl, P. Coffee Brown, and the posse tonight. We got a dope conversation for you. So, go ahead and click that SHARE button and let somebody else know that you're here hanging out with us tonight. We got a dynamic conversation. We're not going to be prolonging the hour. We will not be live on TikTok or on Instagram tonight. Technology is not acting right. So we're just going to be live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. So we are live on all of those platforms tonight. So welcome in, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Hot Seat. We get ready to get in it. You've already met our panelists in times past, so they're going to give you just a little wave offering. When we call their name, Gregory Bloomfield is in the building. Janique Lachey is in the building. Jason Thibodeau is in the building. Lady B is in the house. And of course, my toxic bae, Taylor Made Speaks, is in the building. All right, so tonight's edition of the Hot Seat is going to be quite interesting. As you all know, I talk to people all the time. And of course, I get these interesting show ideas as a result of those conversations. So tonight's no different. I had a conversation with somebody who, in the coaching space, who had recently dissolved their partnership with their person. So they said, candidly, I'm divorced. I got these teens. Now what? I said, oh, I'm glad you asked. So glad you asked. And of course, my wheel started spinning. And I said, let's talk about this. I'm divorced. I got these teens. Now what do I do? Is the question on the floor tonight. There's a lot around that, a lot that surrounds that, because teenage years are the most critical years of a young person's journey. In the teenage years, there are millions of things going on with teenagers, from learning who they are from an identity perspective, detaching themselves from their parents, and then attaching themselves to different partnerships, new friendships, new endeavors, new ideas, all these things. They are changing, they're transforming. And from the age of about 11 to about 16, their metamorphosis is vast. They are having so many different changes in their body temples that they can't keep up with it. We can't keep up with it. Nobody can keep up with it. They're constantly changing. That is the most transformative time outside of when you have a tiny human that you just procreated. They have all these changes going on in those first few years of their life, where their body, their brain, all that stuff is being developed. But in the teen years, there are so many things that are happening and so many shifts that take place. So to add a dissolved relationship on top of all that can be very tragic for some teens. It can cause them to feel as though they're obligated to put the family back together. You have some who feel obligated to participate in the success of the family. They go get a job and quit school, and it's all kind of things. Janiqua and myself have both taught in the classroom and spent time with children, and actually been one-on-one and been in the battlefield of teen life. I know that my other friends here are not traditional educators, but she and I have traditionally taught children, teenagers more specifically, worked in high school environments where there were thousands of young people present, 4 or 5 thousand teenagers, and you could just look at them, as they walk through the hallways. You can look at them and tell who is enlightened, who's not, who doesn't know where they are, what they're doing, who is so much that is going on with them. So imagine, as a parent, if you're trying to figure out what to do with them after you dissolved your partnership with your marriage. What's next? Truthfully, what's next? What am I supposed to do as a parent to support them in their journey and to heal in my journey? There's a twofold thing that's going on in a dissolved relationship. I got to get whole and they got to get whole. So how do we address it? So we have Gregory Bloomfield, who is here tonight with us, and Gregory has been through a dissolved marriage, kind of similar kind of scenario, kind of similar to my scenario. However, my husband actually passed away. So you can say that, I didn't have him present with my children, so I understand the dynamic. However, I do not relate to another person being present for that journey as far as the other person that helped to create those humans. So I can't relate to that aspect. So we have him here. We also have Taylor Made Speaks, because Taylor deals in the coaching space relationally. He's dealt with individuals who have been in toxic situations, dissolved partnerships, and children, of course, were involved. Nick Lachey has done quite a number of years of service to teen girls and helping them to build the building blocks of who they are as a young lady heading into womanhood. And of course, Jason Thibodeau has done some coaching strategically from the perspective of dealing with sports, as it pertains to that, to assisting men in their journey as fathers and all kinds of other stuff. He's done quite a number of career fairs and assisted with young people in different capacities. We've called on him a number of times to do that. So we're going to talk about this. It's going to be a series, so this won't be the only time that you'll hear from us, although next week we will be celebrating another brand new author, but we'll be back talking about this again. So I'm going to open up with some questions. First of all, I want Taylor to kind of connect the dots here. Taylor, I know you've dealt with this stuff from a perspective of people getting out of their relationships, and most people would say that dissolved marriages are 80% toxic, if you will, in some way, shape, or form. So when you think about that from the perspective of helping them on the other side of that, what would be some things that you've seen as far as the parents were concerned? And then we'll talk about the teens.
Well, I think with with the parents, a lot of times you're right. A lot of times it's based on infidelity, cheating. Um, Two people couldn't get along based on disagreements, but majority of the time it's cheating. And so you have anger, you have hurt that plays a part, um, resentment, and then you have adult teenagers that's in the mix. So you're not only hurting the two people that's in a relationship, you're hurting other individual that you have built a bond with that's supposed to have love. So I've seen a lot of things. Sometimes it becomes violent where you have physical contact, right? Because of the person that is hurt. And that turns into a whole nother conversation, especially when you have children that are present, whether they're physically seeing it or whether they're hearing it, it still creates trauma to the individual. So there's a lot of layers for tonight, and I'm really I know it sounds kind of crazy to be excited, but I'm excited to have this conversation because this conversation doesn't get talked about enough. We talk about everything else, but we need to talk about these situations because this is where healing comes in. This is where information, knowledge, and truth reveals itself, because we have a lot of people that's going through these situations. But to answer your question specifically, Koffe, it's really, I personally feel that people lack responsibility. And what I mean by responsibility is that people are so quick to walk away from situations, especially in a family orientated thing, right? The first sign of something that a person do to rub you the wrong way, they're quick to leave, and not really want to sit down and have the conversation. And I was talking the other day, arguments are arguments, and not every argument is a bad argument. And arguments is just a disagreement. It's just two different perspectives trying to be the person that I want to be heard. And I think that we're so quick to walk away, instead of facing each other and saying, "Hey, you don't agree, I don't agree. Let's sit down. Let me hear your side. Let you hear my side, and let's come to a medium."
And you know that I think that, and this touches me really deeply because I don't talk about my situation a lot because my marriage was dissolved and my husband died right after the marriage was dissolved. I'm saying within a year he was dead. And so I don't really talk about that part of my journey. It's not that, I mean, it is what it is. I just don't really talk about it because I really didn't experience the dissolved marriage because he died, if that makes sense. He died right after we dissolved our marriage legally. And so the tragedy of the dissolved marriage and then the death superseded the dissolution all day long because it didn't even matter that it was a divorce because he died. You understand what I'm saying? So, my situation with my children, and I get what you're saying, Taylor. I really do. My situation with my children was horrendous because they had to not only deal with the fact that we lived 2 miles from each other, as we shifted to make certain that we did everything possible for our children not to suffer because we couldn't reside in the same space anymore. But then turn around and he passed away, like right after. It was just chaotic. It was crazy. It was a lot of suffrage. But we had taken the toxicity out of it, Taylor. We'd made an agreement that the toxicity had to go. We chose not to transfer that energy to our children. It was stupid. And we talked about it we had a conversation and we both were messed up behind it, to be honest with you, because we got 3 children in the middle of our garbage. We got our garbage. And I'm just keeping it a buck. We got our garbage, and now we got 3 people in the middle of this garbage that we've created. And now they have to suffer because we couldn't deal with what we needed to deal with as adults. And we were supposed to be leading and guiding them and be their compass and their guiding light. And we failed to do that. And then turn around, he passed away, so he didn't even get a chance to even enjoy his children, And by the grace of God, like I said, we'd already taken care of our differences, but so many people have not. So I want to hear from Janiqua because Janiqua has been in the coaching space of counseling students and having to be intimate with them after they've had to deal with this stuff. Taylor, I'm glad you just put the hay down where the goats could get it. And Janiqua, when you've had to deal with these children, coming in and trying to understand, trying to pick up the pieces while they're attempting to have some sense of normalcy. Mm-hmm. What does that even look like?
Well, one thing that happens is, and I hate to say this, but as a community, African American community, we don't oftentimes address that with our children, and a lot of times divorces happen with our children at a younger age, so it doesn't get addressed, and we wonder why they're having some identity issues, why they're striking out, because we just know mom and dad are not together anymore. We live here, y'all live there. I see grandma, we do have a village, but then they don't know what happens. And then as they get older, they start to have some identity issues. They start to have some trust issues, and they don't know why. So what we have to do, or what I have seen in the past, is meeting with students and wondering why they're angry and they don't like their father based on what the mom said, what Taylor was talking about, divorce and things that happen in the, again, we're going to sweep it under the family. We don't discuss it. And then we want to know why these kids feel the way they are. but we have to have that truth moment with them. I saw you posted something today, Coffee, about your relationship with your oldest daughter and the conversation you had to have with her and her leaving. But the mending of that relationship and how it has grown. Oftentimes we have to accept the fact that children have feelings too. And we have to not always think, well, this is an adult issue, and we all grew up with what goes on in the house stays in the house, and what adults talk about, you don't come in a room. But we did sometimes, I think, may have hurt us in some sense. Thank God we turned out to be great people, but we have to realize that we live in different times, and these kids have to be able to talk. We have to be honest and have these upfront conversations with our kids, with our when I say kids, they're my kids too, but we have to have these conversations because they don't happen. And it causes, my chapter in the book was on self-esteem, and it affects their self-esteem. And we have to address why you're mad and why your father wasn't there. And regardless of what your grandmother told you or your aunt told you, I need to tell you as your mother or your parent what has happened in those relationships. And once those things happen, and then they have someone, a confidant they can trust and start having those conversations with, they tend to start to see, okay, this is why I feel this way, and it's okay for me to feel this way, but I have someone I can talk to and someone I can trust, and that is very important.
And Jennifer, you made a couple of statements that I want to kind of tap into, and Taylor's here to really kind of help steer the conversation.
Okay.
What does that look like from a trust perspective when it comes to you actually building those relationships with those teens? They're acting out in school, they're having some issues, obviously. How do you share that with the parents without divulging too much information that that child has told you, in secrecy and in trust? Because the trust has already been breached because of the dissolved relationship. So they're trying to find somebody they can trust with this particular information, and they're it's sacred at that point. How do you share that with these parents without divulging the detailed specifics of what that child has actually shared with you as a leader in the community and an advocate?
Yes, one thing is relationship building goes across the board. It's just not with those students. It's also with your administrators, the counselors and parents. And then when you start having these conversations, I've never been a parent. I mean, I never was a teacher that called and said, such and such is doing this in class. Like, hey, just thought I'd call and see what's going on. Is some things happening at home? I've noticed we've had some conversations, and I just wanted to see, what's going on your end. And when you approach it as you're coming in as a, hey, I understand I'm the teacher, but also I'm coming as a concerned, aunt. I've had, those different roles that I've carried. I've those different roles that I've held entitled, and I come to those parents, and you come to find out when you start talking to them, they feel so much more comfortable that you've called and reached out because they didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to have those conversations. So it's a conversation that looks like, hey, I'm just calling to check in. I'm not calling to as kids say, to snitch, or I'm not calling to do any of that. I just want to see what's going on your end and what's going on. I just noticed some changes with Elizabeth in class today, and I just wanted to see, is everything okay? Is there anything that you need from me? And then once you come from that perspective of not, I'm coming to point fingers and your kid told me you did this, you tend to have build a relationship with the parents, and they become more open with you. And then from there, they start to divulge more to you than the kids do.
And I love your approach, because today, perfect example, I had a young lady who the educator indicated that her child is the only one in the classroom who does this and that and the other. And I told her candidly, I said, as an educator and as an advocate for children, you have to take time off this position that you have, and I'll give you the time you need to make your presence known at that school. because it sounds as though there's some bullying going on with your child, and she's her relationship was dissolved with the child's son. I mean, the child's father. And I said, it sounds like there is some bullying going on from that educator. And if they never see you and you're only communicating by text and phone, you're not present, and they literally can do whatever they want to your child. So you've got to physically make your presence
known. You have to. I'm not even at Hastings anymore, and I still have parents or connect through me and say, hey, Miss Giles, can you call such and such for me because something's going on with, okay, let me see what's going on. A kid called Miss Giles, I'm in a class with a teacher, I don't feel comfortable. And I want to talk, but I don't, you're not here anymore. Who do I talk to? Let me make some phone calls.
I had one that reached out to me on Instagram and said, it's some stuff going on, and I don't know who to really talk to because with you not being here, like with you not being here,
who do I trust?
I don't even know who I can trust. Because I mean, and forgive me for interjecting, but it just kind of hit me when you said that. You know what's so unfortunate at this journey in everybody's life that, and all of us can relate to this. When we were children, we more so saw educators who had a heart for the children and the families. Now we see people who have obtained an education and they're doing it for the resources, but they're not attached to the success of anybody. They don't have any kind of stake in anybody winning. They just getting paid.
Yeah. And it's sad because, like I said, we're living in time. And I was telling someone this the other day, not to get off the subject, but the pandemic, coming back from the pandemic and going straight back into a full school year, there was no preparing us for coming back. There was no preparing the kids for coming back.
Not at all.
School started. We went back August 1st. Kids started coming back the 16th to 22nd. We just went back in, jumped in feet first, and people were dropping like flies. Teachers were leaving because we were not mentally prepared, because we still had our own things going on in our lives. Then we had these kids that were 2 semesters behind, and then we're trying to jump in, and then they have issues, and they're trying to they went through puberty at home. So we're just having to deal with all of that and come back and still be able to maintain your sanity. There was nothing that prepared us for that, and didn't prepare the students either.
And and it being in the classroom, it just gave me a different respect for the children. Like, seriously, it gave me a total different respect for the children, for real. I want to hear from Taylor. Did you want to add something, or was anything in your mind as she was sharing? Because
I know when I was growing up, and I don't know how it is now, but usually the guidance counselor is our rescue. Usually the guidance counselor is the person that you go to. I'm going to be honest with you. Growing up, I just didn't trust the teachers. The teachers because the teachers told my parents, he's talking too much.
They were snitches.
And nothing wrong with teachers. Like, I love what they do. I could not do what teachers do.
Right.
And stuff that they have to go through and put up with. But my guidance counselor was the person that was my comfort. They were the person that didn't let me get away with murder, but listened to me and kind of talked to me, and maybe if I was late to go to class, they'll write me a pass, to go to class, but still kind of inquire what was going on in my life. And I'm just glad that I had that guidance counselor, but I don't hear about a lot about guidance counselor at schools anymore, really going that extra mile. I don't know. I'm out of the school ram, but that was, like I said, that was the person that I trusted. That was the person that I went to and really, and on the down low, this guy was a Christian, right? He was winning souls doing that, which I know, you're not supposed to be doing that, but he went that extra mile and he cared. And kids came out of his class, his office in tears, trying to do better, right, with their life at their home, and sharing some valuable information or some sacred information, what we talked about, that we couldn't share with our teachers or what have you. But that's just brought to my memory when you were talking about, who do you talk to as far as the teacher at school?
And
I
that
know
and,
it's
and
just
that's
roles
what
have changed.
and
Roles
that's
have
what
really
Janiqua,
changed. Yeah.
right? I was gonna say that's what Janiqua was doing, but she, like you said, Taylor, was going over and beyond the call of duty to add value. She started a mentoring program, and she's going to be spearheading some other projects. We'll be working on those probably towards the end of the year, heading into 2023. So she was spearheading projects and doing all kinds of stuff to add value to the students. We're going to head over to Gregory. Gregory was also a part of the publication Parenting Teens, the Tug of War to Adulthood. And his chapter was on divorce. Now, I'm going to say this is my opinion, and I'm entitled to my opinion because it's my opinion, and I approve it because it's my opinion. But I don't like, and Lady Victoria can tell you this, I've said this for years, and Jason can tell you this as well. They're both leaders in our publishing company. I hate with a passion, and I don't use the term hate loosely, the term single parent. There's no such thing as a single parent. There's a such thing as a single human being who is parenting, but your marital status has nothing to do with parenting. Parenting is an assignment for a human being to point a youth in a direction. It's an arrow. Where a parent is nothing more than an arrow pointing a soul in a specific direction, period. Has nothing to do with marital status. And I do not like when the two have been tied together because it almost sounds like some kind of huge defect. And I'm offended by it, to be honest with you. There's no such thing. I sat here and I pondered this, and it's no knock on anybody or how anybody says. This is my opinion, period. You can subscribe to, I don't care. It's my opinion. But I sat and I pondered this when Will passed away. Jason was there when he passed. Lady Victoria was there when he passed. Janiqua was there. They're the village that has helped me to raise my children. No questions asked. Janiqua's never asked me, oh, since you're a single parent, can I help you? No, that's not what it was like. She saw a void that she filled, period. So there's a such thing as a village. And whether people want to admit it or not, the village is who Janiqua is. She's a counselor. She's a part of the village. I'm a whatever you want, whatever that child need me to be, that's what I am. Period. And we call Janiqua auntie because that's pretty much her role. She's that aunt that you never had, the one that you can tell any of your secrets to and it never be repeated. So everybody needs that kind of auntie. And then Lady Victoria, same thing. These are forces and beacons. Jason has literally come to the rescue to add value to my children. So there's no such thing as a single parent. No such thing. There's a parent who is unmarried or a parent who is married. Period. That's it. The end. And I said that to say this, that Gregory talked about parenting and dissolved marriages in his chapter. And the one thing that we all have to realize is that the child or the children that are involved in these equations, they did not ask to be procreated. And because of that, we have a responsibility to them outside of our emotions, our feelings, how we feel about the other parent, all that. I almost cuss because I hate with a passion all of this dysfunction that is surrounded between people, and they got these babies caught in the middle of this garbage, and it angers me to no end. So, Gregory, First of all, thank you for being present with us. And secondly, I just want to applaud you for all that you've been doing since you released the publication. Of course, Shaniqua's been taking care of some other affairs, and she's been working diligently. She's had an event this past weekend where we shared about the publication and stuff like that. And Lady Victoria just had a major event. Jason is on the move with the publication and whatnot. And of course, Taylor is here co-hosting with me. But I wanted to say I applaud you for the transparency that you put in the chapter of the book. You know, we don't hear from men a lot about divorce. We don't. We hear from women. Women voice quite a bit when it comes to dissolved relationships. However, we don't hear a lot of the men's perspective. I know Jason has dealt with quite a number of guys who've been in dissolved relationships and supporting them as they rebuild their lives. So, Gregory, what are some of the main things that you as a parent had to adjust in order to make sure your children continue to win?
Well, thank you for having me on this platform, and thank you for your kind words, and good evening, everyone on the panel and everyone who's watching and will watch in archive. To put it bluntly, God is awesome. And even though I went through the divorce with my children's mother, I want to let you know that I made a lot of mistakes along the way. One of the things that I can say, the best advice that I got was I had to heal me. I'm no good to anybody unless I'm healed or I'm in the process of healing. We mentioned the publication, and I use this now. I've spoken at other churches and other events about this particular part, and I call it the oxygen mask ministry. And what I mean by that is, and I'll give some context, is that when my children and I were on a plane, we were going to Toronto, Taylor. We were going to Toronto and see my family. And one of the things that, as we all got on planes, they tell you, put your oxygen mask on first before you put on anybody else's. And I think that is the critical salient point when it comes to dissolved marriages and relationships when you have children. We tend to pour everything into our children or into a new relationship, and you are empty, and that's going to crash and burn. That's not going to solve your healing journey. A lot of times we start businesses, we go on trips, and we do all the things that avoid dealing with you. And the best thing that I did, and this came from another divorced person who didn't have children, but they said it helped, was going to divorce recovery counseling. Yes, there's such a thing. I went to a program called Divorce Care for 12 weeks, unpacking. Because the one thing people don't understand, divorce is like a death, but you're not burying the person. You still got to see the person. You still got to deal with the person in a co-parenting space. And sometimes that can be very tough because we're all emotional people. So you have to deal with the sense of failure because it's not all her fault. I mean, a lot of it was my fault. And you have to look in the mirror and have a coach, have a counselor, and admit that you made mistakes. You may even have to apologize to your kids for some of the mistakes you made to their mother. And I had to do that. And that was tough. But I can tell you this. My son is 15. His name's Thaddeus. My daughter's 13. Her name's Isabel. And I can say that they're high-functioning, typical teenagers. They love their dad. We have a great relationship. We've had some rocky times because, sometimes they get angry because their cousins have their mom and dad at home. And why is my life like this where I have dad every other weekend? And their life is different than other kids. But then when they get into other spaces, they realize that it's not so different. The other thing that I realized is that the only person that I can control is me. My life got a lot better when I gave up control and didn't sweat the little stuff, right? We have the children. I have the children every other weekend. That's in the courts. But sometimes there's a difference between the law and love. If my daughter wants to go see her friends or has a game and it happens to fall on my weekend, just for the sake of peace and to make my child happy, I'll truncate my weekend. Hey, I may even go to the event, and I will go just so the children are happy, right? Because a lot of times we fight. It's my weekend. No. It's your pride gets in the way, and I'm telling you this. I'm not perfect. I let my pride get in the way in the embryonic stages of the divorce when they were much younger. But I can tell you that when you are healed and when you're in the healing journey, your focus will be the happiness of the children, because once you're at peace, you can give peace to other situations. I think the reason why a lot of parents fail that are going through divorces, they're not in peace. They're still angry, and the children see that you're angry and they feel that anger. So I think it's very important. I call it the oxygen mask. Put on your oxygen mask first. Get your healing. Get detoxified from that relationship. And it may take a lot of months. It may take a couple years. Don't rush into another relationship to prove that you're over the person and then have this woman and that woman and this woman in front of your kids. No, your kids don't need that. When the time is right for you to date, you will date, but you have to be healed. That's the most important thing. Get your healing. And I can tell you that was the best advice that I ever received. So that is some of the advice. There's a lot more advice I could give, but just for now, I'll land, as they say in Clubhouse, I'll land my plane here. And
speaking of Clubhouse, the room is open, and you guys, you are on the stage. So whenever you get a chance to pop in there, you can definitely do that. We're officially back in Clubhouse. I felt compelled to go ahead and get back in there so that we can capture our audio community and have them back in the hot seat. We used to have thousands of people in the room, and we want to start building those relationships. And we also have welcome TikTok community into the conversation as well. I really do applaud what you said. There's a difference between love and the law. And I wanted to get Jason Thibodeau in on that. When he said that, I thought of Jason because it sounds like something Jason would have said. And, like I said, Jason has dealt with a number of dads, surrogates who have supported young people in their journey in the teen years. And, what does that look like, Jason, the difference between love and the law? That was so eloquent. I love it.
Let's see. How do I say this? One of the things I'll say it like this. And if you've ever seen me on this podcast or other podcasts before, you'll hear me a lot of times say that when divorce happens, let's just be honest with each other. Majority of the time, the kids end up with the mom. Not always the case in modern days, but over the course of the last several decades, a lot of times the kids go with the mom. One of the things that we would see in the mentoring group that I was working with is that a lot of times especially when it comes to sons, when it comes to the young man, the mom would love the son and raise the daughter. So she would lay down the law with the daughter, raise the daughter, push the daughter to become a young adult and to get out of the house, spread her wings, etc. And a lot of times the son ends up becoming like the boyfriend or the caregiver, etc. And that difference between the love and the law is laid down on the young lady a lot of times. The love is laid down on the son, because that son becomes that filler of that empty space of that relationship that's no longer there, right? And a lot of times you'll get the exact opposite if the man gets the kids and he has a son and a daughter. He'll raise that son, And that daughter will, and I'm not saying anything perverse when I'm saying this, when I say love on the opposite sex. So when I'm saying a man loves on his daughter, basically she becomes like the woman of the house. Nothing physical. It's just that she ends up in that role. Before you know it, that young lady as a teenager will be cooking and cleaning. The son will be outside cutting the yard, getting ready to go to school or do whatever it is that he needs to do that man is teaching his son to do. So there's definitely a difference between love and the law from that standpoint. And a lot of times you'll see the law with the same sex and the love with the opposite sex. But coming from a divorced, being the product of a divorced family myself, I can definitely agree with pretty much everything that you have heard this evening. I mean, it happened when I was in the first grade. And even though my dad moved like 10 minutes away for a long time, I never thought I'd see him again. Or then you start to wonder, well, damn, is this my fault? Am I the reason why they're splitting up? And where I believe I got lucky where some of my other friends did not is because I had parents that sat me down and both of them spoke to me, tried to explain what was going on, what was going to happen. I didn't always understand then, but I ended up with a benefit that a lot of young people do not have. And in that mentoring group, which just so you know, the mentoring group I'm talking about is basically a mentoring group where we mentored high school boys, right, through a local church here. And one of the things we could tell almost immediately is who came from single parents, who had the single mom. I know, Koffe, you don't like that. I mean, that's just the general terminology. Who had the divorced mom whose dad wasn't in the picture, and who had the divorced mom whose dad was in the picture. You can pick up on those character traits really quick. And you can also pick up on the one who had both parents in the picture. And I'm talking about within the first meeting, a lot of times you start picking up on character traits, and you can just sit back and you can just look at this and be like, okay, so most likely this one comes from what they would consider a broken home. This one here, the parents just didn't work out, but it seems like dad's probably still in the picture just by how he carries himself. This young man over here seems to be fairly well-rounded, so most likely both parents are together. And I say probably 99.9% of the time we were correct, right? And I mean, one of the things that you got to keep in mind is the young people. Everybody always forgets about the young people. I mean, as parents, we have become, and adults, we have become so selfish where a lot of times, as I believe, I forgot which one said it or which two or three said it, but we become so selfish that we a lot of times don't consider the effects on the kids that are involved, right? I had an ex-girlfriend who she found out that she had a brother my age. I'm about a year or two older than her while we was in college, from what her dad had done with a friend of the family years ago. And after she divulged that news and realized how much it hurt her parents, she thought her parents were going to get divorced. And I mean, even as a young adult, watching this young lady self-implode, with the thought that her parents were about to split because of the information that she came out with. So, I mean, it affects people. And that's one of the things that we need to keep in mind. Yes, as adults going through it, it hurts. I think I saw someone even say in the comments that it's almost like death. And of course, there's a grieving process. I would agree with that. I've had several friends that have gone through divorces, both man and woman. Death, I mean, it feels like death. I can get that. I can see it in their eyes. I can see their heart hurting. But those kids, a lot of times, get caught in that crossfire. And that's something that we need to focus on and remember.
And I tell you, I don't know if you even remember this, Jason, but when Miles got ready to turn 18, I don't even know if you remember this, but he went through this crisis. It was scary, very, very scary, because he said, I'm getting ready to become a man and there is no man here.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a conscientious, Lady Victoria and I don't even know if she remembers this, but I called her crying because I said, I refuse to remarry. I'm not going to do it. I can't. I can't imagine trying to build a relationship with the tragedy that these children have faced and then something fail again. I said, I can't, I just cannot do it. But when he turned at the cusp of him turning 18, he lost it because he realized there was no man to guide him into manhood. And I remember calling Jason freaking out because I'm like, I'm a woman. Don't ever tell me I play both roles and all that. That's all lies. Taylor and I have been together in Clubhouse ever since the inception of the app. And Taylor has heard me say several times, and he said the same thing. I'm not both roles. I can't be a man. I'm not even anatomically designed, psychologically, physiologically, emotionally, socially. I'm not even wired to be able to step in that kind of shoes. I can't do that. My psyche is not even, it's not the same thing. And I told Jason, I don't know what to do. I've, tried to attempt to get this boy into mentoring programs and stuff like that and all these things. And Jason was like, do what you've been doing. Keep praying. And I remember like yesterday, I prayed again, but this time my prayer was strategically different. I said these words, and this is for somebody who is experiencing what I went through. I said, God, you lent Miles to me. He doesn't belong to me. He belongs to you. I am giving him back to you. Now give him a father, a man in human form, an angel in human form to go on this journey with him. And I need this man to present himself now. Within 3 days, there was a guy in my neighborhood that looks like Miles, resonates with Miles, has had a challenging life like Miles, but he has come to a great place he's a husband, a father, has sons. And he took Miles under his wing and he told me, he said, I need you to trust me. And from that day to this one, you would have thought that man was Miles's real father. Everywhere that they're together, they look just alike. And they treat him as though they created him. And I've never seen something so incredible in all my life. And it was just a simple prayer. It wasn't anything intense, or I didn't go into no deep stuff and nothing. I just said, I need a father for this child right now. And God, in his infinite wisdom and his mercy, gave my kid a dad. Like literally. To this day, my son is about to be 24 tomorrow. And I tell his surrogate all the time, I say, man, if I didn't know any better, I would think God listens to me. And he always laughs at me when I say that. But I just told him, I said, I have a passion for my children. Janique will tell you, Jason will tell you, Victoria will tell you, I have an undying passion for my children. Because, children are an inheritance from the Lord. You know how many people cannot procreate? You know how many people are going and investing millions of dollars in an attempt to bring a child into the world? They are a gift. And it's never to be taken for granted like we do as parents. But I'm going to yield over to Lady Victoria because she's also in the coaching space and she does quite a bit of leadership when it comes to family and etiquette and, assisting families that are in need and helping them on their journey. Even to right now, she's bridging the gap for her children right now. She's standing in the gap to add value to her grandchildren and to her children still. So she's present with us this evening. She also wrote a very interesting story in the publication, and she just had a huge share on this past weekend in regards to the publication. So we're honored to have you present with us, Lady Victoria. What are some of the things that, as we begin to wrap up for this first element of the series, what are some of the things that you would share tonight to kind of help us to start adding value to our children after we've dissolved the relationship, kind of piggybacking on what Gregory said?
Well, good evening, everyone. I am so honored to be here on this evening. This is a powerful, powerful discussion. Be said, and I'm just honored to be amongst you, my co-authors, and I always have to give credit to Koffe for bringing us all together. Oh gosh, to add value to the life of a child who's going through their parents being divorced, I would say that the first thing that you could do to add value to their lives is get yourself together. Get out of your own head, get out of your own way, and realize that they are the priority. They don't have the skill sets, they don't have the mindset, they do not have the maturation in their emotions to be able to navigate through this. Now I'm talking about younger children. I've worked with children and teenagers and some young adults. I've mentored probably hundreds of young people when I was the youth director for my church back in Evanston, and I held that position for 8 years. If you know anything about the Church of God in Christ, you know the way that it's structured and the jurisdictional districts and all of that. So I've had an opportunity to work with a lot of children. I ran a home-based daycare for 20 years. I've always had children around me. I have 4 adult children, and currently I have 9 grandchildren. As Koffe mentioned that I am here with my oldest son and his family in this season, added value to the life of my grandchildren. And it is one of the most beautiful experiences I have had in my life, to be able to be here for them, to nurture them, to guide them. You know, we're a family of Christian believers, to walk alongside them as they're navigating their relationship with Christ, to be there to answer questions for them and with them about the Bible and about life. And about life, we have to remember the child is always the number one priority. And we can't allow ourselves to run away with our own emotions and put them at additional risk. It's just simply not fair, because then they'll tend to grow up with that template before them, thinking that all families are like this. This is how all families operate until they are introduced to something new and different that they've not experienced. This is the template that is stamped on their heart and on their emotions. So put them first. Get yourself together, but put aside your feelings and your emotions. It's okay. We can go and cry into our pillow every night if need be. And I've been there. I've had to do that when my husband and I separated. It was difficult. I'm not going to say that it wasn't difficult, that it wasn't challenging, because it most certainly was. But then another thing I did for my son is, when he approached the age of 12 years old, his father moved and lived out of state. I sent him to live with his father. Because at the age of 12 years old, 12 to 21, he needed his dad. He needed him there every day. He needed his dad to throw a ball with him. He needed his dad to show him how to mow the lawn. He needed his dad to show him how to fix a faucet. He needed his dad to show him how to change a tire, change the oil. He needed his dad, and I'm one of those moms. I've never been in that mindset that I have a dual relationship. God made me a mother. He didn't make me a father. There's certain things I can't teach my son. I can talk to him about dating a woman, but when his dad talks to him about dating a woman, it's going to be completely from a male's perspective, and that's what a son needs. That's what he needs. So I know I made the right decision, but I think if you want to add value to the life of your child that's going through and living with you through the process of divorce, get you together so you can help get them together. Realize that they are the priority and they're going to be affected whether they're 3 years old, 13 years old, and sometimes when they're 23 and 33 years old, they could still be affected by the divorce of their parents, the only ones that they've known, that they've been with all of their lives, whether they lived in two separate homes, whether they had that dynamic going on, or whatever it was. The child is first. Esteem them above yourself and esteem them above the madness that you're going through. You'll find that their life, and even yours, will be a lot more productive. That's my share, Koffe.
I love it. I absolutely love it. As we head out for tonight, again, this is going to be a series. Of course, we have a brand new writer that will be coming on next week to premiere her publication. From there, we'll be back in the hot seat to be able to talk more about this. I'm divorced. I got these teens. Now what? That's a big question, and we want to kind of add value to you all. We laid down some foundation for the conversation going forward. We're going to give you some tips and some tools and strategies. One thing I believe in is making sure that before you leave the space that we curate conversations in, that you have tips, tools, and strategies on how to start your journey, how to start that process, and what you can do from there. There are some certified coaches on the platform. Myself, Lady Victoria Taylor, is also certified for the coaching space. If one of us resonated with you and you need that support, do not hesitate to reach out to us. We are here. We're not overly priced or anything like that. We are competitive to our competitors. Nonetheless, we are here to add to you if that's what you need. Janiqua, and I'm sorry.
May I say something? I just wanted to add that, like, for the men out there that are listening, I'm men's ministry director at my church, and I'm speaking.
I was gonna tell them that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back on mute. My bad.
Let me rob this train. Praise God. Hallelujah. He even cut the pastor off of the church. Jesus. I was literally segueing into Minister Gregory's church. Gregory provides support to men to be able to add value to them through his cohort that he has, through the ministry that he's affiliated with. And he's also working on a publication that would add value to men as well. So he'll be releasing that sometime in 2023. So be on the lookout for that. Also, Janiqua actually does a lot of mentorship for young ladies. If you guys are struggling with your teenage daughter in any capacity, you need to reach out to her. She can add value no matter where you are in the nation. She can add tremendous value. I'm a living witness. I'm not telling you. I met her when I got to Houston. I didn't know who Janiqua was from Adam, Eve, Jackie, Jill. I met her. Our hearts were knit together immediately. And she's been a beacon of light and hope to my daughters in so many ways. And she's a surrogate to so many young ladies. So you guys can tap into her in that regard for mentorship for your young ladies. If you have a son that is in his teen years, around 12, Jason, what ages do you got? I mean, I know you still do some mentoring. What ages groups?
When we was mentoring, I haven't had the opportunity to do it as much, but it was like 14 to 17.
Okay, so you can definitely connect with Jason for that age group. Of course, he does a little bit broader than that because he is in acting, especially if you have a son who's aspiring to be in any way, shape, or form in film, then you need to connect with Jason Thibodeau. He's a actor here in the state of Texas and doing some big things here, creating a space for actors and all that kind of stuff. Minority men doing some exceptional things here, all over the nation. So definitely connect with him in that regard, especially if you have a son that wants to be in theater, acting, anything like that. He's your guy for sure. Taylor really specializes in helping you to get rid of the toxicity attached to your decision, help you get out of it if you're still in it. He has a huge program that he does to assist you with that. All right. So anything that you need, the individuals on this platform can add value. As we're exiting, what they're going to do is put their information in the comments. I will scroll them across the screen at the bottom so that you all will have access to them. All right. So they'll be putting their information in the comments. I am going to let it go across the bottom of your screen for those that are watching, so that way it won't be as challenging for you. If you're watching the replay and you want to get the contact information, you'll see it scrolling at the bottom of your screen on all the platforms, okay? So definitely connect with the thought leaders that have been present with us. And Lady Victoria, her etiquette company is doing some expanding. Definitely connect with her for etiquette. That is something that is huge that we are missing for real when it comes to our children. Etiquette is something that we're missing, really, really, really missing. And she adds tremendous value for that. All right. I am a publisher. I own a publishing house. Lady Victoria, Jason are both leaders. He's over our PR. Lady Victoria is one of our coaches strategically to assist you in that journey. If you believe and you want to write and you have an idea and you need some support, you can definitely connect with myself. I am Coach Koffe, 10k.com. Same as my name. I am Coach Koffe, 10k.com. Connect with me directly so that I can get you connected to her. Also, Gracia is another one of our leaders to be able to vet you, because we don't take everybody. We will vet you to make sure that you can be a part of the organization. We don't play no games over here at DFG Publishing House, LLC. We play no games. The testimonies from the saints here can tell you we play no games, okay? So we do vet you and to see if you are a good fit for the organization, and we support you from start to finish to make sure that you win with your publication if you follow the plan. We got a system in place that works if you work it. Praise God. All right. With that being said, we've said all the announcements for tonight. We've had an incredible opportunity to share with you. And so I just want those in here in the church that have written a book, if y'all can just lift your books up for the daughters and sons to see that this is a serious situation that we in right here. This is a serious situation here. This is what this is, man. Now Taylor is going to be writing with the publishing house, but for some different type of content. But we're working on some things. But this is the parenting book. It is going to be a 3-part series. The other aspects of the series will come out in 2023. So be on the lookout for those. It's called Parenting Teens, the Tug of War to Adulthood. And it has some amazing information in there that will add tremendous value to you in your journey of parenting your teens. We're here to add value for sure. All right. You guys were amazing tonight. Thank you for your time. And as we head out for tonight, I am getting ready to load a link on my website. I am CoachKoffe.com. There has been a sponsor from Mac High, one of our business partners. He has donated 10 books at no cost to you outside of shipping. So thankful to him. Horace Manuel, he donated 10 publications to the show to be able to give to anybody who's watching. So it'll be just 10. So if it says sold out, that means that we're out of them. So I will be loading a link. You will be responsible for your shipping, but I will be loading a link where you can get the publication mailed out to you directly as a complimentary gift for the first 10 people. The link will be up in about 30 minutes following the show. So it's about 9:10 now. So about 9:40 Central Standard Time, you'll have access to that link. And you'll be able to grab your complimentary book. It will require for you to pay shipping when you check out. With that being said, that's it for tonight's edition of The Hot Seat. I am your host with the most, P. Koffe Brown. I'm coupled by my honored co-host, Taylor Made Speaks. Gregory Bloomfield has been in the house with us, Janiqua Lachey, Lady Victoria, and of course, Jason Thibodeau. Thank you all for watching and being with us tonight. We will see you on next week's edition of Hot Seat. Jason Thibodeau's wife, Chrissy Thibodeau, is releasing her first project. And so she will be here with us on next week as we celebrate her release of her first publication. Matter of fact, is it next week or is it the week after next? Wait a minute. I might be saying that a little premature. Hold on, Calendar Ministries. It's in 2 weeks. So we will be back next week. Some of us will be back next week. Me and Taylor will be here. Some of the other people, somebody going to be here next week. Somebody going to be in the church next week. Somebody going to be here next week. But in 2 weeks, Chrissy will be releasing her brand new book, The Balancing Act. So it's going to be pretty awesome having her on the segment with us. That is our second husband and wife duo that has published work with us. So we're excited about that. All right. Until next time, grace, peace, and blessings be unto you and your family. And remember, we are in the year of double shalom. I need you all to still expect God to do something absolutely fantastic for you and your family. Good night, everybody. God bless. And we'll see you all again on the hot seat.